Wahoo!
Mario. It's me, Mario.
Do you guys want to hear my joke?
Is it about Mario?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yo, so Mario is like, wahoo, but Luigi's more like wahoo.
What?
Is that a joke?
You guys like it?
I don't get
Did you
it.
finish it? You gotta finish it?
That's
or-
it.
What's the joke?
Mario's a lot more like wahoo, but then Luigi's like wahoo.
That's like a Tim Heidecker stand-up joke.
Is there a joke there that I don't get?
Don't be afraid to say that you're too stupid to get.
I was like, my brain was going to like fish. I'm like, is there a joke about like wahoos, like fish? That's a type of fish, right?
A wahoo?
Yeah, I think wahoo is a type of fish.
Are you thinking
You're
of
thinking mahi.
I could be. No. It's a fish, dude. It's a fucking fish. Look it up.
Show me.
Oh,
I swear to
wahoo?
God. Yeah, I was right.
Why do you know
Dude,
that?
That sounds like the name of a fish that someone would make when they were excited that they caught a new fish.
I know.
That has to be the first fish anyone caught.
I know.
Because they said that first.
They said, "Wahoo!"
Wait,
That's
where the
why-
fuck is?
That's
Wait.
why deers are named deer, because someone killed one and felt bad, and it's oh dear. It
Oh
felt
dear,
bad.
I've done it. I
did
now.
a thing. I took a
I'm
life.
in trouble.
Oh God.
First my wife and now a deer.
Jesus.
Whoa.
Take my deer, please.
Wait, why do you know what a wahoo is?
Well, because here's a little Spinecrackers lore for the upcoming trivia quiz.
Yeah.
Because in another life, I was the manager of a very fancy seafood restaurant.
I didn't know
Ooh.
it was seafood. I knew you.
Yeah.
It was a fancy place,
Yeah.
but
I thought you were like the beverage procurer.
No, nope.
that
But you
would
were
make
also
sense.
that in some other job, right? Or was that just sort of like a random extra task that you took on?
I mean, I signed for a lot of the beverage deliveries, but I wasn't like. I mean, I would help because I like beer. I would help like pick beers with the beverage director, but that was a separate guy.
Maybe that's all I'm thinking of. I guess I just assumed you were beverage director.
I'm the beverage director of my life, but
Me too, and so
I
is
never-
everyone, really.
Never did it professionally.
How do you get that gig? That sounds kind of nice.
Beverage director?
Yeah, beverage director.
You kind of have to have for fancy restaurants at least, unless it's like a dedicated beer place or maybe even a cocktail bar. You have to be a sommelier. You have to be certified, pretty much.
And is that certification
wine stuff?
So through wine, you get to be able to be beverage director, which includes all potable alcoholic
pretty much.
drinks.
It's kind of stupid because I mean, at high levels of the restaurant industry, wine is still king, pretty much,
Sure.
and
Yeah.
so they value that skill or talent or whatever you want to call it more than cocktails are still important for sure, but no one gives a shit if you know anything about beer. That's changing a little bit, thank God, but.
It must be because beer is such a inelastically in demand thing that sustains so
Dude,
many local economies.
I have thought every fucking 6 months for the last 10 years that all right, we have enough breweries. The economy cannot sustain any more breweries
There's no way.
than there are. And then it's just like, oh yeah, 10 more breweries opening in this town of 3,000 people. It's like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
I know. I've noticed that too.
The market feels fucking inexhaustible.
Well, as they say, like.
But maybe it's a bubble. I don't know. I don't even know what a bubble is, dude. Economics.
But it's not. I don't think it really is though, because you just don't hear about these crashes. It's not speculative. It's like.
Yeah.
I've seen breweries tank
For sure.
and like go away, but I've also there still is what you described, like there's 10 microbreweries in a town, of some small proportion, and they all seem to somehow get the slice of the pie that's necessary to like be profitable. Even.
Yep.
It's weird.
People be drinking.
People drink. Maybe it's just a sign that like. Once again, like wherever, no matter where you are, it's sad.
Yeah.
It's just like people be sad.
People are just like weeping into their like new like hype hazy IPA.
Just tears extinguishing flames inside of like fucking mason jars.
Can I get 2 4-packs? I'm gonna trade one of them with a guy in New York City.
Do you guys do fucking growler refills?
No, dude, growlers are out. That was one thing that definitely was a bubble, was growler shops. Growlers are dead.
No way, really?
Like
Yeah.
legitimate, just one-off only growlers at this place type shops.
Like yeah, pretty much. And even like just that being like a big part of any breweries or beer shop business, pretty much. Growlers are basically dead for good reason. It was a stupid idea in the first place.
I don't know if I agree.
I
I
have
had
a
some
growler.
nice. Yeah, I have one.
I have a bunch, but it was because
I haven't used mine in 7 months.
Yeah.
But I have one.
I mean, the problem with growlers is that unless you drink the beer, like all of it right away,
It goes bad.
It sucks. Like it just
Yeah.
and there's no way to stop it. Like
Yeah.
you can't. It doesn't. It's just not. It's just
You have
not
2 days.
It's just not the same as canning or even doing a crowler, which some places still do. But it's those big glass jars. Like there's a reason most good beer these days is not sold in glass bottles. That's not good for the beer. Generally, light getting in there and all that shit.
So,
Anyway, that's your little fucking lesson for the day, people.
if you could pick up the context clues, you would know that what we are going to talk about is a
book.
George Simenon book, chosen by Paul, right?
Georges.
Yes.
So why don't you take us away, Paul? Why don't you just say what it is and why you chose it and whatever?
So this is a book that I chose.
Okay, hey guys, by the way, this is the Spine Crackers podcast.
Yeah, and I'm Paul.
Spine Crackers Pod. I'm Matt.
I'm
and-
Gabe.
Yeah. So there you go.
Yeah.
All right.
Follow our social medias, Instagram, we have a Patreon. I just put up a bunch of videos of me unboxing books for my move on the Patreon. So
Oh wow, I'm excited to watch that. I didn't know you did that.
yeah,
Cool.
you guys don't know anything, we post anywhere. So
I live in a bubble.
that's fine.
Take it away.
So I chose this
Go
book
Paul.
by Georges Simenon. It's a Georges Simenon book, and it's called The Cat. It was written in 1967. It's one of his later novels. I think it's like post the 200 mark. But yeah, I actually read this book like a year ago or so, and I just thought it was super interesting and super different than what I know about Simenon. And I thought it would be good for the podcast to maybe talk about Simenon in from a different light. So yeah. Read
How
it
do you think
again.
How do you think this veers from what he normally does?
I mean, I can't be totally certain because I've only read like 4 or 5 of his novels, but I'm just kind of guessing. Maybe Gabe can fill in the gaps a little bit more, but I'm kind of assuming that this is a little bit of a difference from the majority of what he wrote. But yeah, Gabe, you've read more.
I mean, I would say. I mean, it's similar and different. I think it's different in the sense that the bulk of his novels, or a large chunk of his novels, were the Maigret stories, the detective novels, and then the ones that weren't that are sort of more the roman dur, they're called, the hard novels are the sort of
Right.
non-detective, basically the non-detective novels. And this one is not usually grouped in with the more well-known ones from that group, because those usually still involve some sort of crime or some sort of violence or some sort of more, like traumatic precipitating event, like a death or whatever. So it's different in that sense, but I think, when we'll get into it, but stylistically and sort of thematically, I think this is definitely in line with a lot of the other stuff that he did. But it is different in the sense that it really, it's about a marriage, and it's, a little bit more, not that his stories are intimate, there's a number of them are, but it's very, very like small scale, if that makes sense.
And I think a major difference from what I've read of his so far is that this one came across as a bit more humorous too. It was like dark humor. I don't know if you guys thought it was, but I was like laughing a lot, especially on my second read through.
Yeah, I actually, because I'm coming from a place where I've now only read this, which makes 3. One of those being The Widow.
What was the third one, Matt?
This one.
No. Besides this and The Widow, I mean.
Dirty Snow.
Oh, Dirty Snow.
Oh, yeah, duh.
I've not read a single McGray book.
Damn.
But I'm sold on, like, I love Simenon.
It's my favorite writer.
But like already, just based on that small, tiny little sample size of his large output, I was like, okay, there's a widow. The Widow is already sort of like something that I have as reference, and it feels there's a lot of like similarities there,
Mm-hmm.
Like a guy, and there is also a death technically precipitating
that's
the
true.
events.
That's true.
And there are deaths that are brought up.
Yes.
Yeah. So
They're just not
There's
human.
trauma in there.
Oh,
maybe
for
we
sure.
should walk through a little bit of the general plot.
Do it.
That's on you, man.
Baby.
That's on you, man.
Basically, the novel's about this guy named, what was his name? Emile? What was how do you pronounce his last name? Boyin?
Don't ask me.
Bouin.
Bouin?
Boy.
Bouine, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And he's in his mid 70s,
Early. 70s.
and he's in a relationship with a older woman also in her 70s named Marguerite.
Mm-hmm.
Marguerite. And the novel begins with basically stating that these two people have been married for a number of years, and they only communicate through sending notes to each other, flicking notes at each other. And then it kind of flashes back into the past, and you discover why exactly they stopped talking. And it's basically because Emile thinks that Marguerite poisoned his cat. So there you get the title of the novel. But yeah, then you just obviously find out through reading it that they just basically despise each other. They don't speak, and they just, it's a lot to do with just like I don't know, a bad marriage. But we can get into further plot points as we go along. But
Yeah.
that's the general outline.
Right. Yeah. It's about a couple that hates each other, basically. And the sort of precipitating event of that, and there was tension in the marriage before this that we can talk about, because I think a lot of the tension in the marriage from the beginning is really interesting before the cat event. But yeah, he assumes that she poisoned his cat for various reasons, and then in retaliation, kills her bird, basically kills her parrot.
Yeah, he plucks the feathers out of her parrot,
And then puts them in a flower vase, which is just a grisly little detail.
Yeah.
What's also interesting is that he incidentally does kill her parrot. We aren't ever sure that she killed his cat.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
I think that's important.
And
This
she
book should
sort
just
of
be
she sort
called-
of obliquely denies it towards the end. She never explicitly denies it, but she kind of makes it like refers to him as an idiot for just assuming that she poisoned the cat.
True. And I feel like it's important to focus on that because otherwise, this book, a little bit like, the guy, Emil, just feels like a victim of sort of tyrannical uptightness and judgment by women. So I don't know. I think it's important that, like, he may be wrong, even in just this, like, particular thing. Either way, their marriage is terrible.
Yeah, for a lot of what I thought were really kind of subtle and interesting reasons, like there's a class dynamic at play that I think is really interesting. Emil, his background is very working class. His father was a mason, and he worked in construction before he retired. And Marguerite comes from a wealthy family. Her grandfather founded and owned a large, basically biscuit making factory, biscuit company.
Dwa
Doys.
biscuits.
Doys. I want to say Doys. Because we
Doys.
say Illinois.
Doys. No, we don't. Who says Illinois? Sufjan Stevens. I
Yeah,
guess.
Sufjan Stevens.
But yeah, and the house that they live in is on a street that Marguerite's family essentially owns the entirety of. They're sort of they kind of parlayed their biscuit factory success into real estate, and it's named after her father or her grandfather, I forget. But it's named after her family. Yeah, I think it's named after her father, Sebastian, right?
Yeah.
And she collects rent from everyone. And then one of the sort of subplots in the book is the development of her kind of family's business ventures, and having to ultimately sell half of the street, houses on the other half of the other side of the street, for new apartment buildings. And there's this kind of background in the story of those homes being demolished and the people leaving, and the sort of hubbub of that, and the sort of discussion around the neighborhood of what are they going to put there, and blah 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 blah.
Yeah, which I thought was really interesting. I mean, I thought that it was interesting that Emil was in the construction industry, and that there's this underlying dissonance of frustration by the two of them when all of this demolition starts happening. And towards the end of the book, the block across the street is basically entirely wiped out.
Yeah,
and that's when that's when the most pertinent shit goes down too. Like, very similar to The Widow, the last couple of pages is when a lot of the action happens. But I don't know what you guys thought of the construction and the demolition in terms of a theme. I actually just thought it was mostly towards maybe out with the old and with the new, like old people just get the fuck out of here type deal. Like, whatever you're doing in your weird, early century relationship is just not working. And you're trying to get out of it, and it's still just not happening for you. So you're going to get destroyed.
Old people BTFO.
Yeah. It has some. Have you guys ever seen Make Way for Tomorrow, the Leo McCarey movie? It's from the 30s. It's has some similar themes. It's about an old couple who are the conflict is not between the couple, but it's between them and their children, who essentially fail and refuse to take care of them in various ways. And it's just sort of about one of the fucking saddest movies ever. So I watch it if we can. But it has similar themes about sort of the obsolescence of a certain type of relationship or a certain way of being, and having to get the fuck out of the way.
Because Marguerite, she had to watch her father, I suppose, kind of parlay some of this business into, like, I forget what happened. Did she have a brother? It's already fading from my memory, but like.
So the bitterness for Marguerite comes from her father hired basically an assistant, and then was going bankrupt, and essentially had to sell the business to his assistant, whose name
the Solonave.
Yeah, exactly. Solonave. I don't know how to pronounce it, but and so she basically views them as having swindled her father out of his business.
Yes, and the dad, but I forget if the dad or a brother of some sort or his son was at fault for. This is what I'm forgetting, and I feel like it's key, and I'm pissed at myself.
I forgot it too.
But that inflection point where they just lose a chunk of their wealth is from somebody mismanaging something, somebody not being able to successfully have negotiated something. So the Solonevs come in. Initially they're super deferential to the dad or whatever, and they're like, "Oh, Dwa biscuits and this whole legacy, I appreciate it." And then ultimately, they're there for the cash, and they sell the real estate that I believe the factory was on, of which Marguerite also owns a piece, but only half by the time we start hearing the story. And so she's literally rent in two at the end of the book. And her whole I don't know, it's very interesting. Her whole symbolic existence is there to be super conservative and staid and ritualistic and she seems like such a villain, but I think she's very tragic.
Absolutely.
If not hyper aristocratic, where she's I'm just trying to maintain the old order until I die.
Yeah,
and that's it.
I just,
and she's very Catholic, right? She's very religious.
I didn't like her.
Yeah. Well, but that's the reason they're still married even after all the stuff, and they hate each other and they don't even speak. But she says,
she uses Catholicism to be you're in my. Sorry, yeah.
Yeah, right.
Well, and I kind of
that's
feel
her
like
thing. Is Catholicism doesn't allow divorce, so I can't divorce you, but don't fucking speak to me ever again.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. In a way,
well,
it
I
was
think I just think it's crucial to probably point out too that they're both widowers, right?
Yes.
They both
remarried.
They both had,
they're
one's a widow, one's a widower. Yeah. And they both talk about their former spouses in a loving light, I would say. What was Emile's ex name?
Angèle.
Nellie's the girl from the bar.
Yeah.
Yes.
Nellie is who's another fascinating character.
Yeah. Probably my favorite character of the book, but.
And then
what was Marguerite's?
I forget Marguerite's
Chamois or something like that.
That's his last name, I think.
Chardonnay.
He really does have a name like that, though. He's
Chardonnay.
Again,
I think it might be Chanois with an N.
I do think that Marguerite is, even by Simenon's intention, just less likable. And even when it boils down to her ex-husband, or her dead husband, I guess, her late husband.
Former.
He was, because he was the embodiment of the genteel artiste. He was a musician, and he played some sort of piano. And
he was a violinist at the opera.
Violinist. And everything was very regal and elegant, and they both cling to a different dead spouse,
and for very different reasons, right?
Exactly.
Because for Marguerite, I'm just going to call him Chamois because I can't until someone finds his name in the text. I'm just calling him Chamois.
ShamWow, you might as well.
ShamWow.
Yeah. So Billy Mays. So her late husband Billy Mays. I I know he didn't even sell ShamWows, but anyway. So he, you know, for Marguerite, he's like the ideal sort of like like you said, Matt, aristocratic life and kind of like the perfect match for her. This like wealthy young girl and blah 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 blah. And for Emile, Angèle was a good match for him because she was kind of wild and like they, you know, he talks a lot in the book about how they didn't have a routine, like they didn't eat dinner at a set time, and if there wasn't any dinner, they would just go out and get drunk and sleep in. And, you know, he kind of like idolizes that sort of lifestyle in comparison to Marguerite's very kind of buttoned up, traditional, we sit down together and eat even if we're not speaking, and fucking like all this kind of pomp and circumstance of daily life.
Neither of them had children. I think that's important to the story too. Like there's no outside influence in the form of like another person on either of their sides to come in and be like, "Yo, this is so weird where you're at now, both of you." You know. So
and the only time another person really meaningfully enters their relationship. So there's people on the outside. So there's Nellie, who we'll talk about, and then
Nellie Furtado.
Yeah, but Mrs. Martin, right, is really brought in to the relationship towards the end of the book as a weapon by Marguerite to, you know, under the pretense of, oh, this is my friend, I'm just having her over for tea, but like as a way to kind of talk to Emile without talking to him, because she just talks about him while he's in the room sitting there to her friend.
And then he's like sitting there fuming, and he's like, if I get up and walk away, I lose.
Yes, yes.
Right. Well, he refers to it as the game.
Yep.
It's also, you know, the game with Michael Douglas.
And it's also Marriage Story, Adam Driver.
It's also Marriage Story, Adam Driver. It's also French the Lockhorns, basically.
Holy shit, it really is the French Lockhorns.
It's just French Lockhorns.
That is so good. Yes. Oh, that's going to be the meme. For y'all listening, that's going to be the meme.
They actually made this into a movie actually called Le Chat. I haven't seen it, but I looked it up. But yeah, someone made a movie about this in I think the 70s.
Yeah, it's called.
So it's kind of like
with Adam
Driver. Adam Driver, famous from the Fast and Furious movies.
Okay, now we're getting deep there. I mean, I think that on that point, Matt, about like the game and the way they like flick notes back and forth, and the like, I thought that it was so subtle and well done in just articulating those like small moments of like bitter competitiveness in bad relationships, and like it's very like, despite the fact that it's about fucking 70-plus-year-old French people in the 60s or whatever, that, you know, it's super. I felt like it was very #relatable. Like super.
I mean, passive aggression to
like hit on the fucking nose the way people get in bad relationships. Like, I've seen it, I've done it, and it's so just pointed and sharp.
Yeah.
But not even bad. Like, I feel like you would be able to relate to the sense, because they've been doing it for years, and that's what's unrelatable. But like, just getting into a huge fucking fight, and that like hypersensitivity after the fact to every micro movement of the other person within the small space usually that you're living, and all this kind of stuff. Like, I think that's something that even very, very young people can vibe with and understand, you know, like people trying to, like, you know, you're in something that's like semi long term, and you're like, I don't know, you're kind of almost like spying on the person you're with.
Oh yeah.
You know,
they follow each other when they go shopping, but then but it's under the pretense of like they shop separately and they buy separate shit. And there's a great moment early on in the book when they're both going out shopping, and they're sort of like trying to like one up each other with like the coolness and expensiveness of the stuff they're buying at the butcher shop.
They're shopping symbolically. They're doing
just,
chores
like,
symbolically.
so
It's
good.
crazy. Yeah.
It was so funny, and I just like I don't know. I mean,
Just him frying onions and just being like, "Yeah, I eat onions like whenever."
I also
And she's
really
like, "You're a brute."
you're an animal.
Yeah.
I really like the instances where other people around the town too, like, were able to comment on their relationship too. They're just like, "What the fuck is wrong with these two people? What the hell?" They're just so
Yeah.
fucked up.
No one's supposed to like really think that they have a good thing going. It is. I mean, I don't know if all of us agree, but I would say it's a pretty sick situation all around. Like, who the fuck wants to be in that status at 72 or whatever?
I mean,
That's what makes it that much darker to me, anyway. Is like there's a lot of elements of, and a lot of scenes of the display of aging and writing about aging and looking at your body, and really sad segments where Emil's talking about how he like still feels like he's way younger, but when he
How
looks
old is
at
Simenon
himself,
at this point?
So this was in what 67?
67.
66, 67. Yeah.
So Simenon died in the mid 80s, I think. So he would have been.
He was old. He died when he was 86.
Yeah. So he would have been
was in
around the
his
same
60s.
age, a little younger than the characters in the book, in his late 60s probably.
Yeah. And he's I think he's well renowned for being someone who didn't really. Did he have a long-term marriage ever? He was kind of like
he was actually pretty wholesome in his personal life.
Really? I thought that he was like a
I think.
sex addict. Bruges. Maybe I
I
just
don't know.
totally. I thought we talked
I
about
also
that before.
thought we talked about that too, where maybe he was early. He definitely was like
I don't know why I'm thinking
jet
that.
setting, but I don't know if he was.
Yeah, maybe I'm fucked up there.
All I'm trying to get at is, the very simple idea of like someone thinking about these ideas and putting them down to paper, like.
Oh
just
yeah,
like,
no, I fucked up, dude. He fucked. He definitely fucked.
Yeah, yeah. I thought he was like pretty.
Yeah.
I'm
Pretty
tripping. I don't know who I was
ravenous.
thinking of. I should know that. That's embarrassing. Cut it.
He's your favorite.
No.
He's your favorite actor. I mean, Arthur. He's your favorite
Yeah.
Arthur.
No, my favorite Arthur is my uncle.
Aw, that's wholesome now too.
And his name?
Arthur.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, it feel. I mean, once again, it feels to me, I would say, very French. I actually thought of, and not just because it's French, but yes, because it's French. Houellebecq. I was,
Boo.
Why you
Why'd
gotta
you
bring
think
him
of
into
Quail?
this?
Doug. I was thinking because you'll like the turn. Like his whole career, Simenon's, and like his output so far, seems to me to be a better expression of the anxieties that Houellebecq also expresses. And I was thinking about it in particular with this, because you've got this working class guy, and then you've got this wife who has this kind of like faux Catholicism that she uses to bind this person into a perversion of the sacrament of marriage. It's like this kind of like perverted Catholicism. And then especially with the like construction scenes and stuff at the end, there's all of these kind of weird references to the fact that there's a lot of different nationalities and ethnicities coming in to work and demolish the sort of claim of this aristocratic French heiress kind of person. And I don't know. I was just and including there's a line, and I actually I didn't underline a ton in the book, and I wish I did, but there's a one moment where he goes, in particular the Turk, and he's talking about obviously Arabs coming into the land and stuff, like in 66 or 67, and I was just like, okay, like that's a precursor, and I feel like a bit of a critique of the direction that Houellebecq's going to comment on a little over a decade later.
Yeah, I think that's interesting, and I think that it's like, first of all, this is also the only book we've read so far that I didn't underline anything in, but it's not because I didn't have anything to underline. It's because my copy is fancy, and Paul gave it to me, and it's worth like $60, so I didn't want to write in it.
Oh wow, I forgot that's what happened.
So I didn't want to write in it, so I have notes. I actually took notes on a separate fucking sheet of paper.
Oh, nice.
But anyway, yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting to see this sort of, and it's not like a major plot point in the book, but it does come up a couple times. And I think that you're right in the sense that it's interesting to see this sort of like full circle of, you know, him sort of noting this change in the accents of the workers and like the way they talk and blah, 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 as a sort of, to get back to Paul's earlier point, like, you know, move out of the way. Like the new shit is,
as they destroy a part of Paris.
The new people just dropped.
Right.
and then to think about someone like Houellebecq who's like, oh, you know, reject fucking modernity, embrace tradition or whatever. And I think you're right, Matt. This is a sort of a more subtle take of at least the early end of that kind of development, that sort of lineage.
Sorry. I was going to say that, like, I don't want to compare Simenon to Houellebecq anymore because, I don't know, I just hate him so much. But one great difference is that Houellebecq seems to try to do so much in such a massive satirical way, at least in the book that we read, Submission. But Simenon tends to be able to say more without really even having that in mind or having that to be the point. It always comes down to characters, I would say, for Simenon. But he's so smart and so good and so observant of his environment that he's able to bring these subjects in as subplots, and they are so much more effective.
That's what I was getting at too, Paul. I think, like, my point was that the kind of heavy-handedness of Houellebecq, and I don't even hate Houellebecq that much.
What?
I don't like Submission.
I'm soy facing right now.
Yeah, we're both soy facing. Should have brought another White Claw.
Oh shit! But I agree that Simenon is like. My point was that Houellebecq is drawing from a very like French tradition of which Simenon is a part, and I think Simenon is like so much more superior to him in his ability to, even if it's like him addressing concerns, like somewhat contemporary concerns now, like that you would think are stupid, like he just does it with this lighter touch that is therefore somehow more impactful as well. You know what I mean? Like, like his ability to just flow. Everything seems done with ease. Even to the like right, like, because didn't Simenon like write like while he was just like in a hotel in some other part of the world too and stuff, like just thinking about different streets in Paris and shit. Like, it's super impressive that he was still able to evoke this very like kind of like French existential dread, more subtly, even being away. And I don't know. It's supposed to be praise that I'm doing.
No. Yeah, I mean, I think like on that last point that you were making, Matt. Like I've said, you know, in our discussion on Dirty Snow and when we read The Widow, which we didn't record, so it's a lost episode for all you completionists out there.
Secret lore.
Never find it. Secret lore. He is, you know, for me, one of the like most talented writers at evoking like place that I've ever read, and he's like so simple. He's such a simple writer and so straightforward, but like this book takes place in Paris, right, which is this huge, complex, like whatever city, but he makes it feel so small and so intimate, like to this street and these shops and these row houses, and you feel like all of that so in such detail and so intimately, and it is very like French and very like existential, but it's so evocative just on a sort of base level to me.
Yeah, I agree. You can almost smell the baguettes and see the berets.
And smell the cigarettes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
French people stay smoking.
I did want to say
Dude.
that I read a snippet of an interview of Simenon about this book, and he said that he wrote it in 2 weeks.
Fucking
Crazy.
legend. Absolute
So
legend.
crazy.
The absolute madman.
I mean,
And-
truly.
He also said that it was mostly about the memories of his relationship with his mom. That was his relationship. That was like how he described Emile and Marguerite's relationship, which I thought was really interesting. And also points to a little bit of just like psychoanalyzing him a little bit and thinking about like how he views women. Not necessarily that he feels the same way about women that Emile does, but...
And of course, I mean, Emile's life is kind of shaped by his relationship with women in general, right? Like,
Yeah.
he sort of has, his relationship with his own mother is very important to him, and specifically his memories of his mother, his relationship with his first wife, his relationship with Marguerite, and those all kind of like shape his behavior and his attitudes and kind of, control his life, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he regards himself as, I think, kind of like a salt of the earth.
It's very
More,
Freudian in that way.
Yes.
Yeah,
I
it's
actually
very
kind of forget
Freudian.
what was some of the stuff he said about his mother. I mean, I remember the Angèle stuff, but
This is where I wish I had dog-eared this fancy book.
I do remember that his mother died in a very similar way to, spoilers, how Marguerite dies.
he finds her
kinda just
sprawled
fuck-
out,
Right, he finds
Yeah.
his mother dead.
just like in the kitchen or something.
Right.
Yeah.
And I mean, Dirty Snow does this too with like the mom and him collecting the tossed out laundry
Yes.
scraps and like re-sewing them to sell and all this kind of stuff. And then that turning into a very Freudian situation in the sort of like pseudo brothel that she runs in Dirty Snow. But
And then his first wife dies by being hit by a car.
Yeah,
Right.
but it's kind of
And then she lingers, and then he has to sort of take care of her.
Yeah, but there's little details that on my second read I thought maybe she had some sort of form of cancer because her leg like expands and blows up and her stomach expands, and she says something like the doctors.
they say
didn't-
that's just like hemorrhaging and
Yeah, I thought that was side
really?
effects of the car crash.
yeah, like she has some sort
I
of
wasn't-
internal bleeding issue that like causes retention, and she's
Maybe I'm
blowing
looking
up
into
for that
it
reason.
too
That was
much.
like such a sad moment to me when he's remembering Angèle dying, and he's like, she didn't even fucking know what was happening. Her like stomach was like ballooning from like internal fucking like organ expansion and shit, and she was just laughing and being like, "Oh, you'd think I was pregnant or something."
Yeah, that was.
Yeah, I
that
was like,
really-
oh god, that's really sad.
yeah.
And I think like even narratively, the way Simenon wrote the book, it's very subtle, and it's not something that you would pick up on like on a casual read through, but the way he describes Emile's memories of all of these various women in his life as kind of like blending together and merging into this sort of like one kind of woman figure almost. The book is like written that way too, where it'll jump in time, like from paragraph to paragraph. Like he'll be describing in detail this memory of his mother, and then it'll just like jump switch to current events with Nellie or Marguerite or a different memory of Angèle too, and it's like very subtle, and it feels like the way memory actually kind of works, right? Where shit just kind of like rolls together and flows together.
Yeah, the experience. I mean, we're not, I mean, we're old in a sense, but we're not that old. So I don't really
We're
know
not
how to.
70 yet.
Yeah, I don't know how to speak to the experience, but I've heard tell from old people. That
From,
it's
from
very
the old timers around the fire.
yes, sir. That it's very fucking like telescopic. It just collapses. You know, like you go, oh shit. And I think there's even mention of this, like, of people not feeling, or at least Emil not feeling as though he's evolved, or that there's some sort of progress that's been made in his mental, spiritual, social development in any way. Like, he's just like, oh shit, I'm just this old now, chronologically. And I don't know. I've heard that described by other older people in the same age group. Like, there's some sort of like period where you're like, depending on who you are and what your experiences are, you mark a hard line in the sort of flow of time and go like, I pretty much identify with this. And then the rest of your life doesn't feel phenomenologically different. You're just chronologically now this number of years. And you're like, oh,
Yeah.
fuck.
Right.
Definitely. But I do think that Simenon does seem to criticize the, like, overbearingly ritualistic nature of both Emil and Marguerite. Like, they're both so different in so many ways, but one common thing between them is that they both like routine. Like, Emil is just like a total creature of habit, and that also translates to how he views relationships too. Is like he needs relationships to fit into his routine, but it seems almost like a game that he can't win because he loses excitement, especially when he's like moves in with Nellie, and after like 11 days or something, he just, you know, he had like these romantic ideas about moving in with Nellie. Like he used to just go in there and just like have sex with her, like pull her skirt up and have sex with her behind the, like not behind the bar, but like in the next room. But
So
yeah,
so for the listeners, Nellie is one of the other major characters in the novel, and she's the bartender essentially / owner, tavern keeper of like a local kind of haunt, little dive bar. Which there's also, in terms of this theme of things going out of style, there are some little moments where she comments on like, these young people don't like places like this anymore. They don't come here. It's all old guys and construction workers.
Yeah. But also
Sorry, I interrupted you, Paul. Yeah, sorry.
Oh yeah, go
That's
for it,
right.
Paul.
I forgot what I was getting at. I think I was talking about just how habitual they are, and I do think that Simenon is kind of just maybe not judging, but creating some sort of commentary about the nature of people like these two characters and how it can affect you in a relationship, obviously, but also kind of dead in your life. Like a lot of the times I was reading this, you know, and they're both retired, Emil and Marguerite, and they're in their 70s. They're not, I guess they're pretty well off, but they're just like kind of walking around Paris. They have nothing to do. They just wake up and do their chores and go do their shopping. But they're so miserable. I just wanted to be like, I don't know, make a freaking model airplane or something. Like, they were just so, like they had nothing to fill their lives with, and they were clinging on to each other because that's like the only thing that really was filling up both of them. But it was horrible. It was like the worst relationship I've ever read about in a novel.
But I also think like the point about habit, like that's part of the sort of thesis of the novel to me, is that like in terms of, maybe especially in terms of relationships, but also possibly in general, like misery can itself be like a form of satisfaction, right? Like it is its own habit that you get into, and it is its own kind of thing that you miss when it's gone in a way.
Yeah.
Like,
are you talking to me directly right now, Gabe? Yeah, I think maybe that's one of the reasons why I like this book so much, is because like it was very #relatable for me, just clinging on to misery.
you want to talk
years.
about? Should we transition? Maybe that's Patreon content. We'll talk about Paul's relationship in light of the cat.
That's never going to happen.
But I mean, again, it's not just you. Like, I think a lot of people have had relationships like that, where it's just like that you get into this routine, and from some objective perspective, like, it sucks. And if someone like pinned you down and was like, "Are you happy?" You'd be like, "No." But then you crave that thing, you crave that routine, you crave those moments when they aren't there anymore, in a way. And I think everyone can sort of like feel that to some degree or another. I mean, it's like we talk about like these days toxic relationships. There's a reason people stay in them, and it's partially, I think, what Simenon is sort of getting at here.
Yeah, I totally agree, and
It's
I think
yeah.
I think that it was really smart of Simenon to write about a bad relationship in this way. He takes it to like the peak of what maybe passive aggressiveness or just like ill communication skills are. I mean, he could have taken in the direction of like physical abuse, obviously bad relationship, but I think it was smart of him to take it in this direction that was just like, when you get into a bad relationship, you have those moments like you were talking about earlier, Gabe, of just like not saying the things that you want to say, and then maybe just totally closing off like they did. They just totally stop talking to each other, and it comes down to notes only. But they stay in it. So I just think it was smart of him to take it to the peak level of awfulness in a more subtle way. And it makes it more even keeled too, because you can see both sides of the horribleness of each person. Like, it's from Emil's perspective, but you can see Marguerite's point of view of why he would be awful for her also.
It's not written from Emil's perspective. It's not written in first person or anything.
No.
It's
But you mostly get the details about what he's. I mean, what would you call that?
Yeah, he's the main sort of character that you follow, for sure.
Yeah.
The other thing that I'll say about, like, you asked what makes this different from other Simenon books earlier, Matt, and one thing is, like, Simenon is so, like, straightforward and realistic in most of his writing, and I felt like this description of this relationship at the beginning of the book and, like, the way it develops, with them flicking notes to each other like fucking like paper footballs like across the living room, like there were moments, particularly early on, where it was like borderline like surreal for me. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
it was so, like you said, Paul, taking this premise to its sort of logical conclusion, like the most extreme possible version of like a passive aggressive relationship. And that to me is unique in what I've read in Simenon. Like, he's usually like very, I hate the word gritty, but he's like relentlessly realistic and relentlessly straightforward. And like, this felt like him walking up to the edge of like absurdity and just like dangling there and peering over.
But I don't think he felt like that was I don't think he's away from the same cleaving to realism that he thinks he is. I think this feels very much like somebody who's writing about what they think is another kind of realistic revelation, because Emil kind of finds himself in this relationship with this person. Doesn't really understand why, understands just sort of the very circumstantial reasons why he might have like been in like caught basically in a marriage. But when he's with Nellie, right, I think significantly, like we were saying, like with the end of these books, that there's like a lot that's dumped on you quickly and not super overtly in Simenon's thoughts about like the thesis or whatever. what's funny is he leaves the relationship with Marguerite and boards in Nellie the bartender's bar with her because he's like, my life is being dictated by this person who is tyrannical. But you'll notice that at the end, he's doing what he quote unquote wants. He's eating out whatever he wants. He's doing way more what he wants. He's fucking finally for the first time in years.
Chilling, reading books.
Yeah, with
Dudes
some,
rock.
right. You'd think. And then his complaint about that situation at the end of it is still that he hates people telling him what he thinks and what he should be doing, which he still
Not even
finds even in these like scenarios of like bars he's chosen to go to and like restaurants and like he finds the same. My point is he finds the same problems in the quote unquote self-chosen. They're both chosen. And he finds the same critique in both realms.
Yeah, but the problem with especially his like
Facts.
fallout with Nellie is he just it comes to light that he's just like a freaking baby and he can't deal with any form of criticism. Even like Nellie doesn't even really like end up criticizing him. She like softly interrogates him about how he's feeling about Marguerite, and she like barely asks him a question about it, and his mind flips on her, and he's like, "I think I hate her too. I think she's like Marguerite and my mom." You know, and then we have that line later on where he just calls like all women bitches, which
Yes.
I still think we should read.
Yeah. No, it's important.
But yeah, it came to light for me that he was just like kind of a little child boy searching for, I don't even know what, maybe searching for the happiness he had with his ex-wife, but we really don't even know if like the fondness he has for her is only nostalgic fondness because she's dead and gone. You know, I have my hesitations to even accept that relationship was all that he makes it out to be.
He questions her fidelity
For sure.
in ways that seem, you know, again, like I think very intentionally like hypocritical because, you know, he wasn't and it was supposed to be all good. But then, yeah, also like with Marguerite, yeah, like, oh my God, women are spiders that fucking catch you in their net and then weave you through, and then but they're still always wanting the same thing. They were trying to like suck you dry of your essence and all this kind of shit. Like it does,
Right.
the vibe of the book did strike me as that basically.
Yeah.
But
Aside
it's
from the
very
fact that
abstract, right? It's like it's not like she's after him for money. She's richer than him. It's not like she's after him for money or status or anything.
right.
He sort of describes it as like she treats him like a house servant, basically. Like he's just there because she needs company or needs things done or whatever.
Yeah, he thinks he's like a sort of hired hand, more or less.
It's also interesting that she's painted to be this spider type woman from his perspective too, because the townspeople around the few blocks and like they like love her, and her characterization is like what, she's like a small kind of wholesome old woman who likes wearing like pink and buys like little portions of meat. She's like, oh, give me like the smallest one.
She reminds me a little bit, and we may have to cut this later, but she reminds me a little bit of my mother-in-law, who just sort of like very performatively being like, oh, I don't need the whole thing. Oh my God, please, I only need a little bit. Like, just give me a half. Oh, I won't even eat all that. Oh my God, it's so big.
Yeah,
And then
yeah.
at 1 a.m. they're shoving their face with ice cream.
Bingo. That literally happened.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I did not like that about her character, but she is kind of like, you know, she's not an easy target out. Like only from Emil's perspective does she become this kind of hated character. Like when I read the book, I hated her because I kind of saw myself a little bit in Emile. But when I step away and think about her, she's not a terrible human being. And I think that points to how good of a writer Simenon is for characterization and getting in someone's head, like the way he got into Emile's.
I don't know. Again, maybe just like she's got some tragic flaws, and there is that whole class element that was described earlier.
Yeah, she's
right?
a summation of her socialization and her upbringing, and that
Yeah,
adds to her personality.
She's kind of just trying to maintain, in a way, that what? She's just trying to maintain a semblance of ritual, like you were saying. She wants things to remain the same, and they're not. Her her birthright is being half demolished by the end of the book. I don't know. I really did get the sense that Simenon was more on the side of Emile, and even though he was like sort of admitting that Emile had faults, obviously as well, and that maybe things were more complicated than Emile, the character, was willing to admit in terms of the ideal scenario for his own life. That Marguerite was not... She was not great. She was not a good person.
She wasn't a great or good person. Yeah. But, I mean, what's the worst thing that she did? Supposing that she did not kill a cat. What do you think the worst thing she did was? Was it, like, bringing in her friend to talk about him in the kitchen? She doesn't outwardly do anything, like, evil if she didn't kill the cat.
And again, like we said, it's all from Emile's sort of interpretation. So we don't really get the interior life of Marguerite at all. And I think, I don't know. I don't know. That obviously would have changed things immensely. So I don't really know if she's more of a kind of symbolic entity than anything else in the book.
I think that's right, because I really do think that Emile thinks of women as like one thing, like one orb that is woman,
And I think that relates to the fact that all of the sort of important women in his life sort of merge together in his own memory.
Yes.
As like one kind of entity that dictates that from his perspective, again, like dictates his life.
Right.
Yeah.
And he doesn't hate it. Also, like he seeks it out, and then
tell me I drink too much, mommy.
Yeah, basically. Like he's a dumbass too, like he likes feeling useful, and he likes the other sex telling him that he serves some sort of purpose or whatever, like
It's pretty pathetic. This is why I'm a Volcel.
Paul cell, like we were saying.
Volcel. Volcel.
Yeah.
But is that a solution, Paul?
For right now, it feels like the right solution for sure. I don't know. When I read a book like this,
isn't that kind of the whole point? Is that like Emile tries to go Volcel, but
does he?
Kinda. Not Volcel. He still has sex with Nelly. I know, but he doesn't like it. He won't even get naked.
Yeah, because he's ashamed of his old man boobs.
Yeah. It's
skinny old man body.
Which again, getting back to, and please let this be the last time we talk about Welbeck. But again, these sorts of themes of like aging and male sexuality, and those are very prominent here. So, but at the end of the day, I think like Matt was saying, he kind of realizes that even by saying no, I'm over it, it's still controlling him. You know what I mean? It's still dictating the very fact of him walking away and saying I'm over it.
Yeah.
Yes. But he still feel like that very last bit where Marguerite is like showing her face at the bar finally, like figuring out where he is and running into him, you know, quote unquote accidentally by like having deduced his routine. His claim is that Marguerite is faking her
Right.
distraught mind as she's there, right? He's like she once he finally gets back in her orbit and like is in the house again. He's like, "Oh, Marguerite was pretending to look ill and like needing my presence and whatever."
Right.
And you know, shortly thereafter, more so because, you know, it's said symbolically because of the destruction of like the other half of the alley, she dies. She just dies mid routine again.
Yep. Just in her bedroom.
Yeah, and you never get a you know, you never get a confirmation of whether or not she's faking it. It's all like, once again, like we said, in Emil's head to a degree. And that is kind of the deciding factor onto a little bit of Marguerite's character, like, summarily, right? Like, you know, like, if she were indeed faking all this stuff, she would be more monstrous. But the thing is, you don't know.
Right.
I would say, like, you don't have a concrete confirmation of anything about her.
Not really.
It's all fucking Emil who's talking about it. So, you know, you have his kind of like guesses and theories, and his idea that women are all bitches.
I think
But
that's a
these
smart point of
women,
view.
that women are all bitches.
No, that not point of view. That good lord, no, good. It was smart of Simenon to write from only Emil's perspective, because I mean, for one major reason, if he like switched back and forth, we would get the knowledge of whether or not the cat was killed by her,
Right.
which would, I think, take
Yeah.
away from.
It's
It would take
literally
away from
Schrodinger's
Emil's-
cat. It's like, it just exists in this like fucking
Holy shit.
existence
dude.
of
Emil's
like,
cat.
yeah, Emil's cat. Is it dead or what? Was it killed or was it not? Like, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't
know.
matter, because it's all about it's about Emil's like projection, first and foremost.
Yeah, I think you see that in things like, you know, what's funny is like, I think you see that in things like Eyes Wide Shut, right?
Oh,
Like,
I love that movie. The movie's
a
awesome.
book about a man just spiraling into his own like fucking weird fantasy about his wife. I mean, in that case, about her cheating, but still, like, you know, about a woman's internal reality.
Yes.
But completely fabricated by the male side of the equation.
And I think that is like, you know, you could read this book and be sort of come down on the side, like feel like it's kind of like sexist and he calls all women bitches and da 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 da. But the fact that it's written from his perspective, showing the way that he kind of like spirals with it and creates all of these narratives and stories in his own mind, none of which we ever find out like are, as you said, Matt, like are true or not. I think that in and of itself is sort of like it's a critique, right? Like it's a way of sort of pointing out the, you know, failures of that kind of way of looking at it.
Like, Nellie seems the most enlightened in some senses, and she definitely like you know, kind of like you know, like Babe Ruth, she just calls it from way back. She's like,
Totally.
the ball's going there by the end of this, and she even gets the time frame kind of basically correct.
Yeah.
You know, there's a way in which she has a sense, like a prescience about her, and I think that's important.
Well, Nellie, some characterization about Nellie is that when she was really young, she was a prostitute, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
And I don't know exactly when she started running this bar.
Well, she wound up marrying one of her Johns, Theo.
Yeah.
Oh,
Who
okay.
owned the bar
Who owned
initially.
the bar, yeah, and then he
Oh, yeah.
died.
Yeah. But yeah, Nellie was kind of a funny character for me. She was kind of like the old wise man or something in a fantasy novel. She just kind of had she could kind of predict the future. But I also think that her kind of guessing that Emile is going to go back with Marguerite or wants to go back was almost obvious too, and I feel like it'd be obvious to a lot of people because she's known him for a long time, and his habitual nature probably came through. But I also just think it's like a common thing in relationships too. When you escape, you break up for a little bit, you're probably gonna get back together for a little bit too, or forever.
Well, that's what I was saying. Is like you leave because of the ostensible restrictions on your freedoms, right? Like you're like, oh my god, like in my relationship, I can't fucking game all the time, and I can't eat crap.
Dude, that's a deal breaker.
I know, and go to sleep whenever I want, and like blah blah blah, and it's like,
it's kind of
this dialectic between like positive and negative freedom, right? Like, what am I technically allowed to do versus what do I have the freedom through restriction to now do, or something like that, you know?
Yeah, but
through an authority, the authority of somebody else being in your life who needs you to do this or that. But this is all not to say that like Marguerite's not also, in her own way, fucking dictatorial and bad.
But where the whole machine breaks for me and for Emile too, and he like kind of knows it subconsciously, is that like he's in the most like diabolically straight edge, rule oriented relationship, marriage with this person. Like he's got what he quote unquote needs in a wife. He's got these rules to follow or whatever, but it's totally a fucking sham and it's insane. I mean,
yeah,
they don't
the
talk to each
worst
other.
case scenario, they both killed each other's pets and now speak only in notes. Like no one is thinking
allegedly
this is good. I'm just saying, if you had to say the worst case scenario, right? They both murdered each other's pets.
And they're both potentially in each other's minds scheming to poison one another, which I love.
Yes.
Like they have separate pantries for all their food and alcohol.
Like
doesn't he buy
good.
a cupboard
Yes.
from like
Yes.
a cabinet
He gets
maker
a
at one
whole
point with
cupboard.
like he's like give me a lock that you can't pick with a freaking like bobby pin or something.
Yeah.
Well, and that's one of the things early on in the book when they're passing notes. One of his torturing her, he passes her a note and it just says like, "Be careful about the butter." You know what I mean?
Yeah, so I don't know if we got off the rails enough to say that like the relationship is bad. It's not just fabricated, really. It's not just whimsy and people's speculation. It's like bad. It's like not a good relationship, even if both parties are more innocent than they would believe of each other.
But I also think that like one of the things Simenon is trying to get at, and I don't know what you guys think about this. Like, yeah, of course, I agree the relationship is bad, but I think one of the things he's trying to say is that, if we're thinking about like in a general sense, like what sorts of forces bind people together, and what sorts of things like lead to lives being forever intertwined. We talk a lot about love and good marriages and all that, but I think one of the things Simenon is trying to say here is that like hate and anger and sadness is as powerful a force as love at binding people together and at intertwining lives inexorably.
Yeah, the dark inverse can be
Yeah.
true, I was thinking about, I don't know if I told you guys this story. But I did think about this reading the book. So I worked at a bakery, right? I was just like a cashier at a bakery.
Muffin Matt.
Sure.
Hell yeah.
And so the bakery opens at 6 sharp, right? I'm at the cash register.
Oh, I know where you're talking. I know the bakery you're talking about.
Yes. A person a little older than the main two people, Marguerite and Emile, right? 75-year-old lady, basically, I'm saying, comes in. She's got half a loaf of bread, and it's 6 a.m. I'm so tired. I am in high school, and I hate working, and I still do. And she just shows me the segment of bread, and it's a cinnamon swirl loaf, and she's like, fuck you. And she's like, do you see a problem here? It's 6 a.m. in the morning. And I'm like, and I'm just like, no, you know. She's like, the bread is cinnamon swirl. Would you call this a swirl? And it started to dawn on me. I'm like, I was like, oh my God. And she was like, I've been shopping here for 30 years or something like that. She's like, the swirl has always done a number of spirals into the bread and really mixed with the bread. And for the last couple days, I've been eating this subpar. It's not really swirled into the bread, the cinnamon. And she wanted a refund. She ate 3/4 of the fucking bread. Oh, and I just didn't give her the refund. And she was like, I knew, the owner, blah, blah, blah. And like she left. And I was just thinking about this kind of person, right? Like this kind of person who at the crack of fucking dawn gets up pissed to argue about the amount of cinnamon in the bread she's eating. And I was like, hate and anger are powerful, vivifying forces.
Yes.
That absolutely animate particularly older people in the same way that like fucking joie de vivre and appreciation of beauty and happiness also do. In fact, I would argue that more people are animated and extend their lifespans via anger and hatred than some sort of love for the world.
100%.
100%.
Happy people die young,
dwindles.
Right. They're ready to go because they're satisfied. They're like, and that's another part of life, and then they die.
That's why fucking Mitch McConnell is still alive.
Right. Meanwhile, these beat red motherfuckers who come in just like pissed about little pittances and petty shit, they'll live forever.
Dude, that story is so fucking real. As someone who worked in the service industry for most of my life until recently, I cannot fucking tell you how many people, regulars, that I would have everywhere that I've worked, who would come in every fucking week, sometimes every day, and complain every day about whatever they got. And like my first thought is always like, why do you fucking keep coming here then? If you hate everything we do all the time, why? Just stop coming. Like, this is how we make the dish, or this is what it is. I don't know what to tell you. Like, it's not like, okay, like the first couple times you remake it or whatever, but at some point you're like, this is it. This is what it is.
Yeah.
And that, like, and I remember one guy specifically, like you said, Matt, older guy, always came in by himself. One of the best tippers that I've ever had. It was almost like he was paying me a tax to like take his anger out on me.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like he would just come in and bitch about everything. Coffee's too cold. Eggs are not like the fucking yolks are not halfway between over hard and over medium.
Right.
Like whatever it was. And it would just tip like $20 every time on like 2 eggs and bacon and coffee. And it was just like, what is going on in your head, dude?
Rage and routine.
Yes.
This right here is a better SNL skit than any in the last like 30 years. I can just imagine a guy coming in and being like, sipping a hot coffee, be like, it's cold.
Yeah, just 30 years of that.
Yeah.
Rage and routine. I would say that this book is a lot of the... Yeah.
Here's a $30 tip.
Yeah.
Right. Which is its own signal, right? It's its own, like... That's Marguerite comporting to Catholic Christian ethics while absolutely not comporting to the intent of those rules.
It's
you know
the
what I
letter
mean?
versus the spirit of the law.
Yes, 100%. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, she's a vessel of her social upbringing and her religion, isn't she? She's just kind of like going through the motions of what she expects she should be. And I think that's one of the main reasons I hate her. I think that Emil is a little bit more of a person, but he still has this like overbearing habitual nature that is pretty despisable.
Yeah, he kind of is what he's described. He's a little bit of a Lothario. He's a slob. Like but I agree that I think he's written in a way that seems to suggest he gets more to the pith and like viscera of life, and Marguerite is this desiccated automaton in a sense, fueled by rage for her loss of standing and her loss of whatever, like her.
But I think Emil is fueled by rage just as much, and it's rage of his own making, right? And I think this gets back to where the point that we don't know if Marguerite actually poisoned the cat, because he created this story like basically instantly. Like he had invested so much emotional energy in this cat that he had found and adopted essentially, and finds it dead, and there's some sort of rat poison around, which he admits that he put there for the rats.
Yeah.
And then he just assumes that she had somehow like either
could be a massive cope that he killed his cat.
Exactly. Like either, she purposely negligently let it into the basement, eat the poison, or put it in its food or whatever. But he instantly creates the story that she did it on purpose to hurt him. And, that becomes the guiding narrative of his life from that point on. I thought that scene was really good when he first finds the cat, and literally in that moment, he actually has a literal fever. And so he's like feverishly angry and like freaking out about the cat. And you know what it reminded me of when I was thinking about, when I was reading the scene? It reminded me of the scene in A Christmas Story, my favorite movie, when the dad goes down to the basement to fix the heater, and the dog eats the turkey.
Yes.
And he comes back up and just like freaks out about the dog eating the turkey. Yeah.
Yeah.
Even in like the French judicial system, which is like, if we watch a documentary about the French woman who got killed in Ireland, I learned
A Murder in Cork, is that what it's called?
A Cork, yeah. That they judge people on like a bouquet of evidence, basically, which sounds insane to me. But even in that scenario, I don't think that the jury in France would side with Emile. I mean, he freaking put he put the poison down. There's like very clear evidence that he accidentally killed his cat. So, yeah. But he concocts this whole like almost like Edgar Allan Poe story in the basement. And it like ruins him.
And it's based off of, a characterization of her from multiple years of being together before that happens, where she's just incredibly staid and conservative and, I guess, prudish in a way. Like, they don't fuck. That's another part of it, is like they don't fuck. She regards sex as like a odious wifely duty within a Catholic marriage.
And she says that in so many words, basically. Like,
yeah.
Oh, I'm your wife. I have to put up with this too. So fuck me if you want.
You know who she reminded me of, the other side of the coin, gender-wise, of Riker from the last book. What's that? The last book?
A Burnt Out Case.
Yeah.
A Burnt Out Case.
Yeah, definitely.
Basically.
Like so. Yeah, just
Her
like
and Riker
someone-
would have made a great couple.
Totally.
He would have had sex with her though, whereas Emil just gave up.
Well, right, but Riker
Well,
wouldn't have cared that she didn't want it because it
True.
was
Yeah.
duty.
Yeah.
And she would have accepted the duty.
In fact,
Riker's
Riker probably would have it would have been a turn on for Riker that she didn't want it because it was not actually sexual and it was just for God.
God,
Yeah.
he loves God.
The power of God compels you.
Exactly.
Yeah, I know.
Well, and Marguerite might have bought into Riker's godlike obsessions, and maybe she would have enjoyed it. Not that she would enjoy rape, but sex.
No, she would enjoy doing her duty for God.
yeah,
That's true.
She does have a sort of grim pleasure in a, again, like we're saying, this kind of like photographic negative of Emil, of doing what she needs to do, despite her like not eating anything, and like just sort of like the keeping up with appearances is supposed to be very much the antithesis, but also the same thing as what Emil's doing, where she's like not enjoying her own life probably, but she's principled in this weird way. I don't know.
Yeah, she's puppeteered, right, by her. Like I think I said it earlier.
Spooked, you might even say.
She's spooked.
Yeah, she's
Yeah,
spooked
I
as hell.
hate to.
But Emil
bring-
is fucking at least as spooked, if not more.
Oh
so.
yeah.
Right. He does the classic, also bad move of like taking your significant other's emotional state as a referendum on you only.
Yes, exactly.
Like, which is a classic, error to make, where you're just like, every emotion you're having relates to me. And I think that contributes to the potential, again, it's so key that we don't know, but the potential misattribution of the death of his cat to her intentions.
And I mean, I don't know. Maybe this is a hot take. I don't know what you guys think about this, but I actually think that when they finally get back together at the end, and they resume their sort of, I think it would have been a very different book, and it would have been a sort of maybe like contemporary beach read romance if they got together at the end and started talking to each other again. But that doesn't happen, right? Because this is Simenon, and they get back together and they just immediately resume sending each other mean notes, and they don't speak, and then she dies. But I think that they are closer to happy by the end than they have been in a long time, because they both sort of realize that this perverse routine that they have is now what gives their life meaning. And Simenon, I think, is very reserved in like not presenting that as gross or bad. It's not, there's no judgment about it. It's like, this is what works for these people. And like, there's a moment at the end when he finds the note she leaves him on the piano that's just like, you smell like shit, like take a shower.
Yeah.
And he kind of likes it, I think, and I feel like it's not bleak to me in that sense. It's like that this, even something this kind of, like I said, objectively bad, objectively perverse or whatever, can grant a certain type of grace and happiness.
I mean, that is
It's
kind of a
bleak to
hot
me.
take. It's still bleak because I think the light that shines is very dim about the level of happiness that they could potentially have had in their lives ever. And I think you're right, though, that maybe Simenon isn't casting judgment, and maybe he's a little bit happy for these people for finding some sort of strange, perverted happiness in their relationship, but it is bleak, for sure.
Yeah,
I don't think it's the best that these people could do.
See, I don't know. I may be an outlier. What were you gonna say, Matt?
No, I was just going to express doubts too. I'm more curious what you have to say about. Maybe I'll have more to say if you defend it.
Well, I mean, I was just going to say that, I was sort of reading this, like, through the lens of, so there's been a lot of work done recently in what's called affect theory, which is a branch of sort of phenomenology and philosophical thinking about the sort of cultural role and the sort of I'm trying to think of the right term, but like the way we talk about happiness as this sort of inherent goal in and of itself, and it's defined in a certain way, and if you're not happy, then something's wrong, right? Either with you or with your relationship or whatever. And it strikes me that what Simenon is doing here, in a way, is kind of like expanding our understanding of what happiness looks like. It's not that they're unhappy per se; they just hate each other. And I think that the way we talk about happiness in our sort of culture and idealizing these sort of, like fucking storybook romances, frankly, those things go together. And I think he's trying to pull them apart a little bit. Like, they're in a bad relationship that they don't like and they hate each other, but I think in a way that they're happy. And I don't know. I thought that was interesting. I guess I disagree that it's bleak in this sort of like straightforward way.
I don't think it's clear cut. I just still think it's bleak. I agree that there's, again, there's a double edge to all kinds of scenarios, including love. Like the vulnerability of that, including a kind of hatred and that kind of thing. At the same time, I can't go the distance of like it's affected. Well, I'm assuming if affect theory is like people basically faking, like kind of Sally or whatever in Mrs. Dalloway, like.
It's more about like it's kind of just like a newfangled way to talk about phenomenology. It's about the way things sort of make us, feel, or it's like affect in the broad sense, right? Like, how am I affected by this event or this situation or whatever?
It's a complicated notion of like happiness as a conceptual trap, I think, for a lot of people these days.
Yes, exactly.
Versus just a genuinely bad scenario. Like I think we all agree that those still exist, right? Like that even if you can derive a quality of satisfaction out of something that most outside observers would call bad, first of all, you'd have to go in comparison to what? And second of all, like, just like, when does it just become bad? I don't know. I agree that it's complicated, and I think you're right that Simenon is trying to expand our palette of what constitutes happiness, quote unquote, a sense of fulfillment, a workable equilibrium, or whatever. But I would still say that I certainly would not want to be caught in the tension that Emile is in.
No, I mean, I wouldn't want to either. But again, like what you and I want is not like the metric
True.
by which we need to say he's unhappy or whatever, right? And that's part of the point, right? Like, okay, yeah, we can talk about objectively bad. We can talk about murder or rape or whatever, like all these hideous, objectively bad, right? Sexual slavery, but like these are, to get libertarian with it for a second, these are two consenting adults who have established this weird situation. And I think they both like it. I don't know.
I think to push back a little bit, I mean, I would say that their ages have something to do with the level of happiness that they can acquire in their lives. Like, if someone was in a relationship like this when they were 23 years old with somebody, and they were kicking notes, like footballs back and forth to each other and not speaking, I would say, get the hell out of this relationship. Mm-hmm. And I would still say that to to these two people. I mean, they're in the early 70s, mid 70s. One ends up dying, but still, it's like you can probably do better. I'm not denying that maybe they found some sort of form of happiness, but perhaps because of their late age and they're so set in their ways habitually that you could say that, like, all right, you're doing your thing. You've created these habits over your lifetime, and you seem to be in a strange way content, and Emil's like escape and then retreat back to Marguerite is kind of evidence to this weird form of happiness and love. So, okay, maybe this is good for you at this point in your life, but yeah, I think the age has something to do with that.
And I don't think you're wrong. Like, by the end of the book, Marguerite dies. It's just in parallel to the destruction of the building that in her head belongs to her and is not part of the Salanave or whatever brothers' new building project.
I think it's a father and son.
Yes, I think you're right. And he says the very last little chunk, and there's a lot of ellipses by the end because he's himself sick for reasons that are unclear, and he wakes up in a hospital. He goes, quote, he was ... It was hard to think. The doctor's smile. He tried to find the word. He did not find it. There was no longer anything. So I think you're right that with her death, there is the destruction of some sort of final concretizing element to his life that allowed him to live.
I think all those ellipses at the end that's where his relationship with Marguerite was, right? His hatred, his bitterness, and it's dissipated.
Yeah, and I guess my argument is, like, you need those reasons, right? And pragmatically, sure, yeah, whatever works, right? Whatever, I'm not going to yuck somebody's yum or whatever the fuck.
I fucking hate that phrase.
I do too.
Sounds like throw up.
But I think it's because of scenarios like this a little bit that I don't like that phrase, you know? It's not like, it's like to let people enjoy things. It's like, I don't know. I think it's a sad conclusion to a sad scenario, regardless of, and I think you're right that, again, that there was some sort of contentment there or whatever, equilibrium established, perverse routine that was enjoyable in some sense. But I think Simenon is also, just as a writer so far that I've experienced, someone who is French in that way and also critical of humanity and what we sink to and what I don't know. Maybe that's too oversimplifying.
Yeah, I mean, maybe I'm going too far, but there's the sort of like the famous Beckett quote about
I can't go on, I'll go on.
Yeah, but like, yeah, just like in general, the sort of like his work being about the limits of what human beings can kind of like that essentially there's no limit to what human beings can adapt to and endure, right? And I think for Beckett, it was definitely a negative thing in some ways. But I don't know if I got that out of this. I sort of felt like Simenon was just kind of presenting this as a case study of people who found happiness in a way that appears unacceptable to most of us.
Yeah, I'll buy that.
I still don't buy it, because I mean, they both have examples where they were, potentially happier in their last marriages. I think it's more of an acceptance than happiness. It's like a strange. I'll give it. I won't say happiness, but I'll give you like a strange contentness or a soft contentness.
Yeah, maybe.
Happiness is a loaded word too.
Yeah,
just
exactly.
in general.
Yeah.
Speaking
But
of
you're right.
happiness,
Read Sarah Ahmed's book, The Promise of Happiness. This is what it's about.
Okay, I'll read it for the podcast. Patreon.
Yeah, Patreon only. We'll
no
spout off about it.
nonfiction on the main show.
Speaking of happiness, I was thinking of the movie Happiness while reading this.
Oh my
And
God!
just
Todd
thinking, I
Solondz.
wanted Philip Seymour Hoffman in this book. But I there's no character that. But I could see him like on the streets in the movie, just like holding a coffee or something. Like his vibe in that movie fit the feel of this book.
Who would play Emil? Sorry, go ahead. What were you gonna say?
Oh no, I'm just saying that's a pretty good comparison because like that book is, or I mean that movie is nothing if not like, here's all the fucked up ways other people can be quote unquote happy,
Right.
you know, and is this, you know, these people are criminal, they should go to jail, etc. But like, that's what makes them happy. Anyway,
Who would play Emil in the movie?
Anne Marguerite.
Robin Williams.
You think? I could see it.
I
if
could
he were
actually see
alive,
it.
perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, someone stout. I feel like someone kind of like maybe like why can't I remember his name? God damn it, dude. Harvey Keitel.
Oh.
From Pulp Fiction or what?
Yeah,
Yeah.
What about?
but like
I
he's
think
old. And he's kind of like he's like stocky and he's like kind of he was strong. So I think he still like looks strong, but he's old now. So I think
Right.
I don't know. It's like Harvey Keitel, and then it would be for Marguerite, it would it would be
It would be the wife from the Robin Williams movie.
Scarlett Johansson.
No.
Adam Driver?
no Sally Fields.
Yeah.
Sally Fields. Yeah, I think she'd actually be good.
Yeah, Sally Field would be good.
Bring them both back.
I was gonna say what's her face from Manhattan.
Dan? No.
Oh.
Not Diane Keaton. That's
Yes, Diane
yeah,
Keaton.
Diane Keaton.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was thinking her too, but I think she's a little bit too strong-willed.
She's too funny.
In her
Diane Keaton is
demeanor.
also too funny and bubbly in general.
Yeah, Marguerite.
I'm
is
just trying to think
like
of
a
like someone who's
dry
aged
loaf.
into like a sort of like desiccated but regal. This is not nice, but like, you know, I mean, it would be nice if I could think of French people.
Shout
but
out
I
to
can't.
Diane Keaton.
Shout out Diane. Those
It
two.
would probably be Bill Murray would be cast, if we're being honest, as Emil.
Oh God.
We're talking about our ideal scenario.
Yeah.
Okay, here's a hot take that isn't really a hot take. It's more of a dumb take. But Matt, you said at the end that it was revealed to you that Emil was sick. See, I read it both times I read this book. I read it that he slit his wrists. Did you not
What?
get that?
What?
I thought that he ran into the doctor's office and they were like, "What the hell's wrong with you? What's going on?" And then they like looked down and she was like, "Oh my God, are you okay?" And then I thought he woke up in a psych ward.
Nah. I mean, not for me.
Wait, where
I read
does
that
it
the
say,
same
where
way
does it
both
say
times.
they look down? Like, what? No, I just thought he passed out.
Yeah.
I thought that he slit his wrist unconsciously and then woke up in a psych ward.
Unconsciously.
Yeah, he was like running through the streets because his wife died. I thought that he cut his wrists. And, well, I mean, at the end, they're like, "You're going to be here for a long time. You're not
mean-
getting out of here," or something.
Because
And I
he's
was
old
like-
and fucking unhealthy.
That's
See,
true,
I
but
read
I'm
that
gonna,
as,
I'm gonna
like-
need you to. Maybe you're right. I don't know if you can pick up just even one sentence or phrase that like cues anybody into that might be true. I just didn't
Well,
read
keep
it.
talking because I got to look.
I
for it.
I have the exact scene. So he runs to the doctor's office. This is reading now. He rang and rang. What is it? The doctor isn't. A dark-skinned servant with a heavy foreign accent. A discreetly lighted marble entrance hall. My wife. I told you that the doctor, but It's my wife. She tried to close the door, but as she looked at him, she suddenly changed her mind. What's the matter with you? Nothing. It's my... He staggered forward. At the left was a Louis the 26th bench. 26th? No, 16th. Louis the 16th bench covered with faded pink velvet like one of the dresses. The fog enveloping him was also pink.
Yeah, that's...
I don't get
all I
anything
read.
about cutting your wrists there. The pink, the pink is about the clothes Marguerite used to wear.
Yeah.
I thought it was also him like fading into a faint like state, and then the next line is when he opened his eyes, he saw at first only whiteness. I guess that kind of makes sense when you're waking up from a state. But I just thought like the last page. You underwent an emergency operation last night. I took that as they sewed his wrist back up.
But when because they say he feels his midsection, like he feels his chest.
Where's that line?
Right before
And it's
that.
the bandages felt hard bandages. That's what he says. It's not on his arms.
Yeah.
I would say he had something more like heart surgery,
Yeah.
Okay.
probably.
See, I began that with "I'm a dum dum."
I know.
I actually read. Maybe I read it that way because I thought it would be like.
His left hand felt his chest, and he was surprised to find a rigid bandage under his fingers.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
I read this book twice and I missed that. I'm a fucking idiot.
So he had some sort of
Signing off.
He had like heart surgery or something, I think.
Yeah. Which is interesting because, and I think it works for the book because that was kind of one of the quote-unquote tricks that he always accused Marguerite of pulling, was always like touching her chest and being like, like almost like feigning the beginnings of a heart attack to try to like goad him or get, whatever, to scare him. And then it makes sense that one of his final acts in the book is to make that same motion.
Right. They both did, except she actually legitimately died from it, I think. Probably. We don't know for sure, but meanwhile, yeah, he was the one to go. And there was also the whole discussion of like men dying earlier than women, and he always thought he would go first, and she was always sort of teasing him that he would, and she'd be glad.
Yep.
Well, that's one thing I really liked about the book too. Is like on my first read, I remember just because I know Simenon, I really thought someone was going to get poisoned, or I thought that he was going to die first, or I thought there was going to be this like huge violent scene. And I mean, it's pretty violent. It's pretty traumatic.
It's traumatic for sure.
But I think it actually works so much better to like kind of echo the way his mom died too, to have Marguerite die the same way.
Repetitions and, the routine goes on,
And then also to just like have Simenon state a couple times in the book that like, oh, she'll probably just like die when I'm not there someday. That's probably how it's going to happen. And that made me think like, oh, that's probably not how it's going to happen. It's going to be different. It's going to be poison. But then that's just how it happened. I thought it was like he cleverly just like shifted how I thought the end was going to turn out.
Yeah. I mean, death, I think, ultimately tends to be pretty repetitive.
Right.
And you have, like, the kind of, like, Schrodinger's cat thing where, like, a dying cat maybe or maybe not, but it still changes the entire reality of the situation, but also doesn't change the ultimate end of anybody.
Yeah.
I don't know. I liked it.
Yeah. Paul, I mean, I feel like we didn't read much from the book so far,
No.
but I want to just flag that I just feel like Simenon's writing is so... It's not fancy and it's not flowery. It is fucking straightforward as fuck, but it is so just evocative to me. I don't know about you, Paul, but like the scenes in Nellie's bar and the descriptions of the bar, it really reminded me of the short story from the Murakami collection, Men Without Women, Kino,
Yeah.
where the guy opens...
Is it the one with the snakes?
Yes. That's the one where there's the snakes outside the bar. I just felt so... Like, I felt like I'd been to the bar. and I felt like I had been to the street, and I felt like I had been inside the house. And he does it so economically. Like, maybe part of why I haven't read anything is like I don't even know what to point to like get it across how effective it is. But it's this.
Yeah.
It's the whole sort of aggregation of these little descriptions of the wind or the sound of the fountain outside the house at night, or whatever, and it just all comes together in such a vivid way. I love it.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, and just thinking about how quickly he wrote this book, and probably many others too. Like, he reminds me of just like, when you hear about a painter, like one of my favorite painters is what if I don't remember his name? Anders Picasso. Shit, I'm gonna look it up. He's my favorite painter. I don't know his name, but like even like some like Beethoven.
Anderson Paak.
Anders Zorn, that's what it is. But he would be able to like look at a scene of people dancing and then go home and paint it in like 2 hours, and it's like a masterpiece. Or just thinking about like musicians that are like the peak level, like Beethoven writing shit when he's deaf and stuff. I actually do hold Simenon to a similar level, because he writes like a freaking painter to me. He's so, like you said, evocative, and just knows how to be so simple, yet so just like straightforward and gorgeous in his descriptions, and where to place certain passages and sentences. It's just absolutely amazing, and it comes across as so easy, which it was to him, which is just like a shocking thing to think about.
Yeah, you don't slap something like this together, or any of the things he's written, in 2 weeks or whatever the fuck he said, normally for almost anybody.
No.
So yeah, there is a kind of innate kind of savant quality to him as a writer. I'd say.
Yeah.
But yeah, man,
Is it time?
it's time.
Yeah, let me go. We don't usually announce we're gonna go pee on the podcast, but I gotta go pee. So
No, we don't.
Okay.
give me
I'll hum the song, but very slowly. Da, da, So this is the fan favorite segment of the show.
We just did read another book.
We did.
We just did.
We just did.
We didn't even just did. We just did a while ago, and we just did a podcast about it.
That's right. We didn't just read a book. We fucking talked about it.
We did do it.
That's important.
Yeah.
So you can't hate on us for talking about Harry Potter, which is what we're about to do.
Right, and that's
So
right.
this is where we put all of the characters from the book we just read into Harry Potter houses.
we already sing the song.
Yep, did the song,
Yeah.
explained what we're doing, and now we're going to do the thing that we explained.
And there's only,
I go last.
yes. Or no, that's for the gradings. So
Oh, yeah,
you can
yeah,
go
yeah.
whenever you
can go
want.
Whenever you want.
Let's do Nelly.
Nelly, dude. Gryffindor? Slytherin?
I'm saying Gryffindor.
I don't know.
Shoot, man. I'm going to say Gryffindor as well. No. I'm going to go Slytherin, actually.
Yeah.
I think it's like a positive, but like she is out for herself. She's not committed to any particular ideal, and she's definitely not doing anything.
But she's not like ambitious. She just doesn't give a fuck.
Yeah,
That's
she
why
doesn't give a fuck.
I don't see her as Slytherin because she's not ambitious.
I know, but like Griffin, she doesn't have like she's not trying to like save anybody or do anything noble or anything like a Gryffindor either.
Right, unless you want to call fucking
No.
old guys noble.
Right. Helping old guys like figure their life out by fucking them.
Doing them a flavor.
Horny French woman. I mean, she's got hairy armpits. It's all, yeah. Do what you want.
I don't know.
I don't know. I think
It's
she's
tough
Slytherin. But like, positive Slytherin, I would say.
Yeah, I think she's Slytherin too, but I think she's fucking chill Slytherin.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think she's Gryffindor in her heart.
Damn. Well, okay, why?
Right.
Explain. Can you just explain a little bit? We don't have to harp on it. I'm just curious. Like, what Gryffindor qualities does she have?
Well, she's not like. I guess you're right that she isn't necessarily like fighting for the good in any way. But I think maybe the only example would be her telling the truth and asking the right direct questions, even in a sly way, to Emil.
Yeah.
And she doesn't like. She fucks dudes and old guys, but she doesn't do it for like trying to climb some sort of status ladder. It doesn't seem like she's fucking in a Slytherin type way.
True. It is borderline an act of charity most of the time, it seems like.
Yeah.
She also describes it as like she likes it.
True.
She is just kind of pleasuring herself in a way.
Yeah, but Hufflepuffs can pleasure themselves. They probably do it more often than the others.
But they'll think about whoever they're obsessed with. I don't know.
I think she's chill. I'm gonna stick with chill Slytherin.
Yeah.
I'm sticking with Gryffindor.
All right. I guess there's really only two others. We could talk about Martin, Mrs. Martin.
Can we?
Not really.
She was literally
She's
just
a squib. She's a squib.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She was a dirty bomb that Marguerite exploded into Emil's life.
And then she, at the end of the book, Marguerite writes Emil a note that says, "I kicked the harpy out."
Yeah.
The funny thing
Marguerite-
Which
about
I just
that
thought was such a that gets back to what I'm saying. Like, that's such a sign of affection,
Yeah,
Just like acknowledging, like we both agree, like, yeah, fuck this woman. I only brought her in because I thought it would hurt you, but she actually sucks.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, she didn't say it out loud. She wrote it in a note.
I know,
spoken
but
4 years.
I know.
Right, in her
So
insane, controlled environment, yeah.
Happiness on a on what is it called? You're an academic, Gabe.
Graded on a curve.
Grade on it's happiness on a curve.
Yeah, I get that. All right, Marguerite.
Hufflepuff.
Yeah, just demented Hufflepuff.
Yeah.
Why Hufflepuff?
So goddamn loyal to the image and to her familial lineage.
and to tradition.
Yeah.
But isn't Slytherin all about tradition?
But
Slytherin is basically like return to tradition, white nationalism.
No, because Slytherin would be like, we'll sell our apartment block too for cash. You know what I mean? Like, if we're going the negative route.
I don't think so.
Slytherin has the strong snake of Voldemort infesting their thought process and gearing them towards a lineage mindset. But in reality, they're more individualistic.
I don't think Slytherin would sell the house. I think Slytherin, maybe. But I think Slytherin would also, like... Okay, there's that famous image, have you guys ever seen this, of that mall that was built, like, around one guy's house who refused to sell his land?
Oh, I haven't seen that.
Not seen
Okay,
that.
look it up. It's like a meme image. I don't even know if it's real. But to me, that's a little Slytherin. It's a little like, this is my fucking property. This is my fucking shit. I'm doing this on my terms. Suck my balls. Tradition.
But the Slytherin would be the one building the mall.
I think it could be both. I think they could both be Slytherins.
I'm
Because
just
it's
still gonna
about
call-
motivation.
Well, she has no ambitious motivations whatsoever. She reminds me of like an old washed up actress that like can't get roles anymore, and she's just like sad about how she's getting old.
But
She didn't do anything with her life.
washed up actresses were ambitious at one point.
Okay, so a bad example. I mean, she literally did nothing with her whole life. She was just like
She maintained her family
housewife.
home. She did tradition.
Tradition is Hufflepuff to me.
I don't know.
Yeah, so I read here's a little poem that the Sorting Hat says about Hufflepuff.
Ooh, I like this.
You might belong to Hufflepuff where they are just and loyal. Those patient Hufflepuffs are true and unafraid of toil. I think that She's unafraid of toil as
I
well.
feel like we should have all the poems now.
Yeah.
All right, well, you fucking bring up the other poems.
You do.
The right
You have
voice,
it
though.
already.
His voice is kind of like.
Well, all right, let me get Slytherin
Oh,
qualities
shit.
up.
All right. I'm gonna. I don't know. I'm sticking. I think she's Slytherin.
Good lord, that's the hardest history I've had. In the
Bad
whole
take.
podcast.
Bad take. Yeah.
Yeah, I think she'd be rolled over in the Slytherin house.
I don't know, dude. But it's all about her. She's obsessed. She's also obsessed with her family lineage and the bloodline, and that's so Slytherin. Like the Slytherins are all about like who was your dad, who was your grandfather, what's your provenance. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, I mean, I do see your point, but I still think she's just like, you can just say that crops up to misguided loyalty.
I mean,
Which
you
is-
could. It's up to interpretation. I just think it's more straightforwardly Slytherin, right? Like, okay, are the Slytherins loyal to their bloodline? Yeah, they are. But does that make them Hufflepuffs? I don't think so.
No.
You know what? Maybe she is Slytherin.
Thank you.
You guys are fucking off your rocker.
Because the other thing is being prideful and having a lot of self-assurance, I think.
Let's go.
Yeah. And those are considered the 5, like, and goal-oriented. I don't know. But
She's
then there's
not
also, like,
goal-oriented at all.
rule breaker, ambitious, judgmental, for
I
sure.
know. That's why this is
Self-confident,
all bullshit.
haughty.
We gotta find a Harry Potter podcast to fucking school us on these fucking houses.
Dude,
Let's
it's
get
crazy.
J.K. Rowling on.
Yeah, it's like
No, let's not.
she's only got fucking half the qualities of a Slytherin.
I'm
both
going.
negative and
I'm
positive.
going Slytherin. Boom, done. Matt, final answer.
Demented Hufflepuff.
Paul, final answer.
Strong Hufflepuff.
All right. Emil, our boy.
Hufflepuff.
Hufflepuff.
Easy clap, Hufflepuff.
Easy clap, Hufflepuff.
The
Yeah.
Hufflest of the Puffs.
Yeah.
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 Huffle. Yeah. Yeah.
He's not cucked.
No, he's not. He's not.
No.
Yeah. He cucked, I think.
Literally.
Theo for a
Yeah.
little bit.
Well, I don't know. Was he having sex with Nellie while
Nellie?
Theo was alive? I don't remember.
Yes, he was.
Okay. Yeah.
Didn't
Oh,
she
yeah.
cheat
You're
on
right.
him
You're
too?
right. Yeah. He was. Huh?
Didn't she cheat on him too? Right?
I wouldn't call
They're
it
like-
cheating.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Nellie was the
They had an
bartender.
open relationship. French.
Who? Nellie and Theo?
No. Wait. Theo is his first wife, right?
No, Theo's the bartender, the original
Oh.
man of the bar. Yeah.
Yeah, who was married to
Who's
Nellie
his first
and
wife?
Angel.
Angèle.
Yeah, I was saying that they had kind of an open marriage, right?
Yeah,
Sort
kind
of,
of.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like don't ask, don't tell.
Right, but he did confirmed, and she was like, I don't know.
And then he
And
got
he
a
was
little
like,
salty.
yeah, and he didn't like that because he couldn't dish it out. He couldn't take it.
All right. Score time. Dibs not first.
Fuck.
Got
Shit.
him.
All right, so that's me.
Everyone heard it.
Yeah. Let's see. I enjoyed this novel very much. It's my third Simenon. He's written so many, so it's hard, in the ratio of writings to, what I've read. But, not to belabor a point, but just like you guys were saying earlier, he's almost just got this like nonchalance about his writing that I find really, really easy to engage with, and but it also, I don't know, it contains a depth, and I don't think it's just this like phantom depth of someone writing vaguely and then you project. I think Simenon has this pretty unique ability to, like you said, evoke. And evoke is an active thing that an author with intention does. He makes you get on his level. and all these books are slim and somehow, like I've been experiencing for the past 3 books now, and now this one, it's like these small little books with an outsized, I would say, target to them is really been impressing me, and I really like it. All that being said, I think I'm going to give this book probably a 3.7.
That's the average rating on Goodreads.
Is that true?
Yeah.
I swear to God, I didn't.
That
mean
is
to do
so
that.
funny.
I'm just your average fucking meaty part of the bell curve,
you're
motherfucker.
You're just
yeah.
basic, dude.
Fuck, dude. Fuck.
Average Muffin Matt.
Yeah.
Shut up. What are your scores? And be honest.
Okay, I know. I'm gonna be honest. I mean, so Simenon is my favorite writer. Period. I've read probably, I haven't kept track, but 30 plus of his books, and I'll be honest. It took me a while to like this book. I did not like it for the first 70 pages or so, probably.
Wow.
Or I didn't love it. It wasn't what I expect or want when I go into a Simenon novel.
It seemed like a bit of maybe just a sort of unpleasant grind about two people that hate each other.
Yeah,
Only.
yeah. But by the time I got to the end, and some of the sort of more subtle themes started becoming clear about, even stuff like the small stuff about class politics, or just his slow burning evocation of place and this neighborhood in Paris, and all of these things, it just fucking comes together. Like a lot of what he writes, and I came away feeling that it was deeply true and relatable to both me personally and just like people, right? Like it's just a good fucking book about bad relationships. And there were some things towards the end that specifically affected me when he moves out. My wife and I, shout outs to my wife, who I love very much. But, we broke our engagement and she moved out for a time years ago. And it was a little longer than 11 days, but not much. And I feel like he captures so much of that experience so vividly and so just truthfully.
Yeah.
So it won me over, but it did take a little while. So I'm gonna be kind of basic too. I'm right near where Matt's at. I'm like a 3.82 for me.
Nice.
Yeah, I think my score is going to be a little bit higher than yours. I think that, well, first of all, yeah, to regurgitate what you guys just said, I just feel like if you're a human being, you need to read Simenon. He knows how to write, and I think most people can get something out of his novels. But I think that people in general should read this book if you're planning on being in a relationship, or if you have been, or you want to be in. I just feel like it's almost like some sort of warning against how they can become and how not to act, and what to avoid, and it can deeply make you think about yourself too. I just feel like it's very important, actually. I think it's like almost a must read for me. So yeah, I just don't think anyone can or has. I mean, I haven't read every single book, but he wrote about the intimate nature of relationships and fighting and passive aggressiveness so well that I related to so much, that I think a lot of people can relate to. I think it's very worth the read. And it also hits upon all of the things that Simenon is so good at. Like, his writing comes through, obviously, can't not come through. So yeah, I think I'm going to give it a 4.3.
Woo! Nice.
Oh, yeah. Stay tuned for the special Patreon episode about Paul's relationship.
That's right. Yeah. Guaranteed.
Stay tuned for till the end of time because it's never going to happen. But stay tuned.
Dude, I just talked about how my wife and I broke our engagement, man. Come on. Expose yourself.
Okay.
I'm just
Expose
gonna
yourself. To the tune of Express Yourself.
Yes, I love that.
Yeah.
Well, that was The Cat by Georges Simenon.
Yeah, oui.
Thank
Merci
you
for listening.
Everybody, merci.
Yeah.
And news for everyone out there, we will be canceling our OnlyFans.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
We support sex workers.
Right.
Yep.
And also, they did and then did not ban sexually explicit content. We just can't deal with the ambiguity.
That was the dumbest shit ever, dude. We don't have to get into it, but that was so stupid.
So,
if you liked this, you'll probably like our Twitter and Instagram and Facebook and fucking YouTube channel. So go there, subscribe, follow, like, leave comments, and if you really liked it, which you must because you're still here at this point, go to our Patreon. Patreon.com/spinecrackers.
drop us $1 even.
$1. I don't know if
everything
that's
helps.
an option. I should put in $1 option.
Everything helps.
Yeah.
If it's not, we'll make it one, I guess.
If it isn't, we'll make $1 option.
Yeah.
For all you dollar folks out there, we love you.
All right.
We can
All right,
mail
boys.
us $1 in the mail too. I'll give
That's
you my
true.
address,
Yeah,
Patreon
Paul will
only.
give you his personal address.
Personal address.
You have to subscribe to the Patreon for $5 in order to get Paul's address to send him $1.
The only thing is, you have to
But you
deliver.
can show up and give it handed to him, and that's what's
Well,
funny.
yeah,
about it.
the thing is, you
right.
have to give it in person, and my mailbox is my butt. So
Yeah.
you gotta stick it in my butt.
Oh, wow.
Hello.
And that's OnlyFans as
That's
well.
OnlyFans,
so,
baby.
mail things.
God.
OnlyFans.
Ugh, God, paper cut butthole. That sounds terrible.
Jesus. It's a fucking sludge
sounds
metal
like
band. Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like a 17-year-old's Call of Duty handle.
Oh, shit. All right, well, we'll see you next week. What are we reading next week? Ooh, Thomas Bernhard. Oh, my God.
Yeah.
That's going to be interesting.
We're staying positive.
Yeah. Cool.
All right, guys.
All right, everybody.
And gals and whatever. Good night.
Love you.
Bye.